passed to the rich and the wealthy in our lifetime. How we got here: Bush tax cuts, subprime scamming, and financial sector greed. And how we get to fiscal solvency: by supporting the CBC budget alternative. We are the conscience of the Congress.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Madam Chair, I'd like to inquire as to how much time each side had and how many speakers there might be left. We have no additional speakers except myself.
We'll be happy, Madam Speaker, to take the rest of his time.
From Utah has 3 minutes remaining. The gentleman from Missouri has 4.5 minutes remaining.
Madam Chair, I would like to reserve the balance of our time.
The gentleman reserves.
Madam Speaker, I would now yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from the Virgin Islands, a certified physician, Dr. Donna Christensen.
Thank you. The gentlewoman from the Virgin Islands is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Speaker, I rise today in strong support of the Congressional Black Caucus's budget, which is responsible and responsive to the needs of all Americans, especially those who have been ignored and underserved in these hard economic times. We reject the Republican budget while providing giveaways to the rich and corporations, send seniors and people with disabilities out into the private insurance market with vouchers that will not cover and so will increase their costs, and that reopens the dread donut hole. The CBC budget preserves Medicare, strengthens and extends it, and ends the donut hole. Republicans would cut Medicaid, denying health care to Americans who need prevention and care most, continuing the spiral of excess disabilities, illness, and premature death. Our budget fully funds Medicaid and the Prevention and Public Health Fund, ensuring health care and the chance for wellness, which many would not have without them. We robustly fund HIV and AIDS, WIC, maternal and child health, and other programs to close gaps and bring better health to minorities, the poor, and Americans in rural areas and the territories. Unlike the Republican budget, we create millions of jobs, bring down costs, and further reduce the deficit. Vote for the CBC budget. Reject the harmful Republican budget.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from Utah is recognized.
Madam Chair, we have no additional speakers, but I would like to reserve the right to close, and so I'll reserve the balance of my time at this
The gentleman from Utah reserves. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Maryland, the ranking member of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Congressman Elijah Cummings.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 1 minute.
I want to thank the gentleman for yielding, and I rise in strong support of the Congressional Black Caucus budget. As a senior member of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure and as a former chairman of the subcommittee on the Coast Guard and Maritime Transportation, I know that budget cuts do not build bridges. They also do not repair roads, and they do not expand our transit systems. Unlike the majority's proposed budget, which threatens to bring our transportation networks to a standstill, the CBC alternative budget invests $20 billion above the President's budget in highways, transit, high-speed rail, and bridges. Such an investment in our nation's infrastructure will move our recovering economy forward while creating at least 1 million jobs. Such investments will also ensure the mobility of our constituents so they can keep moving forward. The CBC alternative budget makes the investments in economic growth our nation's needs, and I urge all members to vote in favor of the Congressional Black Caucus budget. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Utah continues to reserve. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield now 1 minute to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Danny Davis.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to the Ryan Plan and in favor of the CBC budget. The CBC budget invests heavily in the education of our youngest citizens from preschool to graduate school. This investment is necessary to ensure that all children receive the world-class education they so greatly need and rightly deserve. This investment is necessary to build the early childhood education system we need to improve school readiness and reduce achievement gaps among students from different backgrounds. This investment is necessary to teach critical math and science skills, to improve graduation rates, and to provide for crucial college preparation programs such as TRIO and Gear Up, all of which are essential for success in our technological world. Madam Speaker, education is a civil right issue, and unless we educate all of our children, this country will never be what it ought to be. I support the CBC budget and yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Madam Chair, the
gentleman from Utah
my understanding is I have 3 additional minutes. I'm happy to yield an additional minute. I know you've got additional speakers. I'd like to yield them one minute of our time.
The gentleman from Utah yields 1 minute. The gentleman from Missouri.
Let me thank the gentleman from Utah.
The gentleman now has 2½ minutes.
I yield now, Madam Speaker, 1 minute to the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Sheila Jackson Lee.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
I thank the chair. I thank the gentleman from Utah for yielding to the CBC. The CBC budget saves $325 billion in interest over 10 years, which the Republican budget does not. I am glad to stand here and talk about ports and public transit, but I'm even more glad to talk about the $5 billion that goes into general sciences, space and technology, and the $5 billion for community development. The reason why I want to say that is, for all of the tax cuts to the wealthy, $800 billion, the CBC budget understands that they can invest in health, income security, education, and transportation. In addition, may I say to you that this is the face of what we're trying to fight for, a hardworking nurse and a beautiful child. This is what America is all about. And I would just say to my good friends, the CBC budget does not engage in slashonomics. It does not engage in losing jobs, jobs, jobs. We create jobs through community block grants, through space science and technology, to transportation, and all the bill for the Republicans will do to America is slash jobs, slash economics. Vote for the CBC budget. I yield back.
The gentleman from Utah continues to reserve. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Madam Speaker, in closing, I'm not accusing anybody of being mean-spirited and wanting to hurt people. I am absolutely convinced that those who support the Republican budget are good and decent Americans and want the best thing for this country. I will never stand on this floor and do that. What I am saying is that I believe, and our caucus believes, that their program, their budget, is one that does damage to the vulnerable population of this country. And we believe that somebody must stand up and speak for those who are hurting and cannot speak for themselves. A budget is a moral document. It is a photograph of what we believe. It is a look into the somebodyness of the United States of America. And when we look at this budget that this Congress will ultimately approve, some budget, it is who we are. It is a biography of who we are. And I am absolutely convinced that the wrong budget, and I think the budget that is before us is the wrong budget, could create a gash on the soul of America and leave a scar for a long, long time. Madam Speaker, this is a time that we must be careful, because if we are not, great damage will be done to the people who can afford the damage the least. I'm talking about children, I'm talking about the elderly, and I'm talking about Americans who live next door to us, people who sit on the pew with us in church. These are people who are going to be hurt by this budget. And I think that the American public, when they come to understand this budget, will come to the conclusion that we're right. And with that, Madam Chair.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The gentleman from Utah is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The United States of America is the greatest country on the face of the planet. We have overcome challenge after challenge for hundreds of years. And what makes America great is that entrepreneurial spirit, that can-do attitude, that idea that was inspired in the Constitution. I believe that the Constitution is an inspired sacred document. But if we're going to continue to maintain our being as the world's economic and military superpower, we're going to have to change the trajectory on which we're doing business. Taxing, spending, borrowing money, that is not the pathway to prosperity. The American dream is built upon the ideal that people need to take care of themselves. There is a proper role of government. And what we truly need in this country is fiscal discipline, limited government, accountability, and a strong national defense. And the Republican budget that has been put forward puts us on that trajectory to retain and regain that fiscal sanity that we so desperately need in this country. Not only does our budget balance over the course of time, but it actually pays off the debt. And that, I think, and I believe, is what we should be doing, and what this budget that is put forth by the Budget Committee here on the Republican side of the aisle truly does. We have a moral obligation to leave this country better than how we found it. And if we're going to truly drive jobs and the economy forward, we're going to have to recognize that we need to empower the individual. We need to empower the entrepreneur so that they can be the very best that we can in a very competitive global climate. And so, Madam Chair, I would urge the passage of the Republican budget, and I would urge my colleagues to vote no on this alternative that's been put forward during this last half hour. I've enjoyed the debate. It's what makes this country great. With that, I'll yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The question is on the amendment. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Missouri. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
Madam Speaker, I request a recorded vote.
Does the gentleman from Missouri request the yeas and the nays? The recorded vote?
Yes.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Missouri will be postponed. The chair is advised that Amendment Number 2, printed in Part B of House Report 112-62, will not be offered. For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah rise?
Madam Chair, I move that the committee do now rise.
The question is on the motion to rise. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The committee rises. Okay.
Matt. Madam Chair.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union, having had under consideration H. Conres 34, directs me to report that it has come to no resolution thereon.
The Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union reports that the committee has under consideration H. Conres 34 and has come to no resolution thereon. The Chair lays before the House the following personal request.
Leave of absence requested for Mr. Reichert of Washington for today and the balance of the week.
Without objection, the request is granted. What purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise? The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Accordingly, the House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
In the House today, members approved a final temporary 2011 spending bill, 260 to 167. The Senate also passed the measure, and with that